Hello and welcome to the Cyberden, your weekly dose of tech and games. I, Jake, will be chatting once again with veteran composer Frank Klepacki about Petroglyph Studio's recently revealed real-time strategy game 8-Bit Armies, coming out on April the 22nd. Welcome back, mate.
How you doing, Jake?
All's well on the Cyberden, Frank, all's well.
Great.
Now, Frank, please explain to everyone about the inspiration behind 8-Bit Armies. It actually looks like a combination of Command and Conquer and Minecraft.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun, retro spin on the thing. I mean, kind of going back to the roots, what made real-time strategy fun in the first place. Petroglyphs realized that the genre's kind of gotten a little bit away from that, and a lot of the other types of innovations and iterations of the genre, that it's gotten to the point where people have to have so much memorization of different functionality and control on top of what made it great in the first place that, I think it got a bit to be more catered toward hardcore audiences rather than the casual gamers and in between, and it was possible in the early days for you to feel like you could get into it and understand it pretty quickly. And then it just depended on how good of a strategist you were. And, as I said later on, it just became more of well, how many things do I have to memorize in order to play this thing? So 8-Bit Armies is kind of akin back to the old school days, where it's a straight up real-time strategy game. It's easy to get into. It requires, the skill level of the player, in terms of how well they're going to do. And, it's cool to be able to see that work great again.
Let's discuss the story and factions. Who can the player choose from? And will it all be comical in tone, or will it maybe juxtapose a serious plot with its colourful, cheery visuals?
Well, the way that they've structured this is it's going to come with the classic retro military faction, which most people will obviously be familiar with. Has the basic archetypes of the units. You got your tanks, your artillery, your gun infantry, your rocket infantry, air vehicles, and more factions will be planned for post-launch, but the initial release will just have the classic faction to start with. And in terms of story, I mean, it's going to be kind of light on that. There will be a campaign, but it's definitely more focused on the gameplay and the fun aspect of the genre, that we're used to. So yeah, that's kind of where it's starting, and we're just going to take it from there.
What kind of features and units can we expect in 8-Bit Armies? And will it play just like the classic real-time strategy series Command and Conquer?
Basically, yeah, it feels very much like the classic Command and Conquer in terms of the gameplay. So, all the players that really, adored that aspect of it in its early days, I mean, that's really what it's gonna feel a lot like to them. So we're pretty excited about that. And yeah, like I mentioned before with the unit types, I kind of touched on that before. But yeah, you've got your classic archetype units in there to choose from, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's no pop cap right now, so you can build as many units as you want. There's basically the limit hasn't even been hit yet, in terms of our of our testing. So we've gotten some pretty nutty battles going on with just droves of units attacking each other. It's been pretty awesome.
you've composed for the classic Command & Conquer series, as well as other great real-time strategy games like the Dune series, Grey Goo, and more. What can we expect from the music of 8-Bit Armies?
Well, this was a fun game to work on because of the whole 8-bit concept. It's got that kind of blocky art style, like you mentioned, a little bit of that kind of the Minecraft feel, but in a real-time strategy game. And so with that in mind, I've literally gone and used some classic 8-bit, instruments mixed with contemporary instruments. So it kind of feels like my Command and Conquer style, but mixed with a blend of some 8-bit influence in it as well. So it's it's got some good driving beats and modern synths and a little bit of rock in there and all of that fun stuff that people like. But on top of that, like melodically, there's 8-bit instruments going on that kind of give it that inspiration and that style. So it was kind of fun to blend those two together. Because I haven't really done that before into that particular context.
Will it be possible for players out there to perhaps purchase the soundtrack anywhere?
I believe Petroglyph does plan on making the soundtrack available, so yes.
Keeping in mind, of course, side note, remember, there are other soundtracks out there, but I'm sure that once I get my hands on the soundtrack, I will, with your permission, of course, play it on the Cyberden for all to enjoy.
Sure, that'd be great.
Now, let's talk about modding. It's a pretty big thing these days, so will fans be able to get access to the tools so they can modify the game, and can we expect other bonus content for the game in the future aside from new factions?
Officially, I'm not sure what the plan is on the mod stuff, but I know Petroglyph in general has been very good about providing information to the mod communities and tools. So I'm sure they'll come up with something for that in particular. We've done it in our past games, so I can't see why this would be any different. And we've definitely been supportive of the mod community in general, like I said. So it's I expect that would be the case.
Frank, thank you so much for coming to this interview.
You're welcome, man. It's great to be back on again.
And I would also like to thank my dear listeners out there for tuning into this great interview on the Cyberden, your weekly dose of tech and games. See you, Frank. Can't wait for 8-Bit Armies release.
Right on. Thank you, Jake, and looking forward to it.